Welcome to Love Factually, the podcast that analyzes rom-coms and romantic films using the science of close relationships. I'm Paul Eastwick, author of Bonded by Evolution. I'm here with Eli Finkel, author of The All or Nothing Marriage. And Eli, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about love and basketball, Gina Prince-Bythewood's semi-autobiographical debut feature. She said her goal in making the film was to do a Black When Harry Met Sally, and she largely succeeded, as this year 2000 film has been selected for preservation by the Library of Congress. Some of the themes we'll explore are why we need to understand a loved one's identity, which sorts of people are likely to hold grudges, and whether having a jacked up attitude is worse if you're a woman.
Fair warning, we'll be spoiling this movie today. So if you don't know that you should never trade in your Nikes for a pair of shoes you can't even walk in.
You will sink into the grass.
Seriously. Go ahead and watch this movie and come back. So Eli, who are the key characters and couples in this movie?
The movie explores the on-again, off-again relationship between two basketball stars, Quincy McCall and Monica Wright. Quincy, played by Omar Epps and also called Q, is charismatic, confident, and entitled. Everybody assumes he'll play in the NBA, but even he never stops to wonder if that's actually what he wants. Monica, played by Sanaa Lathan, is disciplined, quick-tempered, and emotionally guarded. A full-on baller. She doesn't have the option of playing professionally in America because the WNBA doesn't exist yet. Quincy's parents are convinced that women are going to try to take advantage of him because of his fame and his future wealth. His father, Zeke, is his role model. Zeke is a former NBA player whose controlling nature and righteous posturing hide a deep hypocrisy. Quincy's mother, Nona, is the stabilizing force in the household, but her family-first orientation leaves her vulnerable when her marriage crumbles. Monica's mother, Camille, gave up her career to care for their family. She values stability and femininity and doesn't understand Monica's passion for basketball. A key secondary character is Kira, Quincy's fiancée near the end of the movie, who is played by Tyra Banks. So, Paul, those are the chess pieces. Are you ready to give us 1 minute on how the film moves them across the board?
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of funny because, get ready. This movie's going to sound real goofy when I try to condense it to 1 minute, where, it's like, it's not this goofy, but anyway, get ready. Get ready.
All right, I am eager. On your mark, get set, go.
Okay, this film is helpfully organized into 4 quarters. In the first quarter, 11-year-old Monica moves in next door to Quincy. They play a hell of a pickup game. He asks her to be his girl, but they end up fighting and breaking up approximately 1 minute later. In the second quarter, in high school, they're both star players, which earns Quincy plenty of accolades, but puts Monica in the difficult position of struggling to be a ball player and feminine at the same time. They both get into USC, and they finally get together on the night of the spring dance, and they start dating into freshman year of college. Now, in the third quarter, Quincy's playing well, but Monica struggles from the bench. Quincy finds out that his father was cheating on his mother, and he confides in Monica, but she has to get back for curfew. He kind of loses it and breaks up with her, and he drops out to join the NBA. Finally, in the fourth quarter, Monica is playing in Europe, but then she quits to come back to the U.S., and Quincy tears his ACL, and he's also getting married to Tyra Banks. But hold on, Monica challenges Quincy to a game of one-on-one. That if she wins, he'll call off the wedding. She loses, and then he utters the immortal words, double or nothing, which means, he's not going to marry Tyra Banks. And then, thank the Lord, the WNBA is formed. Monica plays for the Sparks, and there's Quincy on the sidelines holding their kid.
I think it was great, 59.1. You're right. It was crazy. I was confused, given that it's divided into quarters, why isn't that post-credit scene called overtime?
I was totally expecting that there was going to be an overtime component too, but yes, that would have made sense. So you and I both know, and now the audience knows, I'm not much of an athlete. You know this because we played on a flag football team together when I was in graduate school. In retrospect, it's really weird they let you play because you were a professor and we were a bunch of... you were very good.
Old guy.
You were very good. I was just okay. I never had any aptitude for basketball whatsoever. But I tell you what I did have aptitude for. It is the 1987 classic Double Dribble for the Nintendo Entertainment System, which is what they're playing in Quincy's room. That is legit
freaked out when you saw
the first halfway decent sports video game. Yeah, and it's perfect for the timing. I mean, there's so many great timing anachronisms in this movie that really took me back, but that was when I was like, yep, 1987 totally makes sense that is what they would be playing.
It's funny. I also had some feels around basketball of that era. And yeah, I don't have a connection to this movie, but the movie basically spans the era of time that I was like a Bulls super fan.
Oh, fascinating.
And I mean, I don't know that you've sort of pieced this together, but Michael Jordan was drafted when I was 9.
Okay.
And I did play basketball all the time. I loved the Bulls.
Yeah.
And he left the Bulls when I was 23. And in the meantime, maybe was like the greatest basketball player and arguably the best basketball team of all time. And I remember feeling so lucky about this era of hoops that it was like the equivalent of being a Yankees fan in the Babe Ruth era or something.
Right.
So I enjoyed watching the movie because it was exactly that era of hoops, and I enjoyed reminiscing about that time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, look, when it comes to relationships, there's a lot of pretty cool things in here. I mean, I'll just start off the top with, the thing you quoted at the beginning is that, Gina Prince-Bythewood said, I want to make a Black When Harry Met Sally. And boy, are there a lot of cool parallels in here. And I think the most obvious one is that we're seeing the friends to lovers pathway. It's cool how it takes a different form in this movie than it did in When Harry Met Sally. When Harry Met Sally, they become friends as young adults, and it actually takes a little while for them to actually connect with each other, whereas these two live next door. And, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, that people who live near each other are more likely to end up together. Proximity attraction is a huge factor. So in one version of, this sort of experimental test, they look at, okay, if you're randomly assigned to sit next to somebody in a class versus are you randomly assigned to sit somewhere else in the class, the odds that you're going to be friends with a person who is randomly assigned to sit next to you, it's like nearly 20 times higher.
Oh,
You're
my
nearly
God.
20 times more likely to be friends with that person.
That's humongous.
Yeah, and again, that's not a living situation, but one of the classics, I mean, I talk about this in my class, I think you talk about it in your class too, where they do look at people randomly assigned to different dorms. Just being somebody's next door neighbor, you're much more likely to be friends with them than if you just live like 2 doors down, much less 3 or 4 doors down.
How wild is it? Because none of us thinks, why am I close to the specific friends I have in my life? I don't know.
They were just there.
Like an error of random assignment, right?
That's
it's
right.
like, no, it's because there's some profound connection that couldn't be recreated from anybody else. But if you look at the evidence, the odds are pretty good that you could have found different friends and had just as good a life.
Here's a very embarrassing story I will tell, and then I'll throw it to you. I just remembered this, but I knew this in 8th grade, and there was like a cute girl in my class, and I don't know, I was just never randomly assigned to sit next to her. I remember going to the teacher once and be like, hey, can you put me in Alex's group?
Did not.
And my teacher was like, no, I cannot put you in Alex's group.
You got shot down.
I know. My teacher was not having it. But anyway, so I knew and was unable to make it work for my benefit.
You were
what do
a
you have
romantic
here?
titan.
Yeah, well. Anyway. All right, you go. What do you got?
This movie was catnip for me. I mean, a lot of the ideas in this movie are so well aligned with the ideas that I explored in the All or Nothing Marriage. And I hadn't seen this movie, so I didn't know how well aligned it was. But one of the ideas I talk about in that book is that we've arrived at an era where identity and authenticity are important. And if you're going to try to flatter me, but you're flattering me in a way that isn't tied up to my beliefs about who I really am, then things are going to go sideways. And we see such good examples of this in the movie. And this is, in a sense, the anti-Michelangelo effect, right? The Michelangelo effect is you see me as I ideally want to be, and you bring out that person. And then there's a fully nice version where you're treating me well, but it misaligns with who I am, and it clangs off me. And for me, the moment that really solidified this for me is I did research with Carol Rusbolt, one of the originators of this idea. And early on, she told a story. This might have been in my first year in grad school.
I remember. Yeah, tell this story. This is good.
Yeah, about how she had this boyfriend when she was young, I think in her 20s. And he called her his California cutie. And she recognized that he meant it well. He recognized that it was a compliment. And she was like, that is not the person I want to be.
Yeah.
And so because it misaligned with this like ideal self that she had, this vision she had of herself, it missed. And this is a problem throughout the movie.
Yep.
I think maybe the best example comes from Quincy and Monica and the big fight they had about curfew. And we'll talk more about that later. But for now, the basic outline of the fight is he's just had this really upsetting experience. He's talking to her about it. And she says, actually, can you come back to the dorm because I don't want to miss curfew? And he's very offended by that. But she has to make curfew if she's going to be able to start on the basketball team. And she doesn't say, Quincy, why are you undermining my goals? She says, I'm a ball player. He hasn't just undermined her goals. He's compromised her identity, and he should never have asked her to sacrifice her identity. And by the way, I'm pretty sympathetic with her point of view on that.
Yes, I'm also very sympathetic to her. One of the reasons that I'm sympathetic to her, and this is like a little bit of a different take on what you're saying, is that I actually think at many points throughout this movie, what does work on occasion about their relationship is that he is sort of doing the Michelangelo phenomenon with her in the way you'd expect. I mean, for the whole, I think it's the second quarter of this film, he's the only one who seems to get who she is.
Yeah.
That she's a ball player. And he's paying attention to her, right? I mean, he's counting up the number of offensive boards that she has, and that ends up being kind of important for their first experience.
This is really, that is a great observation. I agree with you. I actually think he gets it wrong for a brief period of time.
Yeah, right.
Really, what I think happens to him, he's like really supportive of her, then he like loses his compass, and then by the time he gets another chance 5 years later, he's good about it again.
Yes.
But I think what happens is, Quincy idolizes his dad.
Yeah.
And his dad has really set out a vision for Quincy's life that Quincy totally internalized for himself. But it was dependent on the idea that his dad was a good guy. And then he discovers not only that his dad has been having affairs on his mom, but that his dad looked him in the eye and said, I'm not having affairs with your mom. Lied flat out to his face. And that was the moment where I think Quincy got a little unmoored and lost track. Who am I? Which goals are these? And I think it was during that period of time where he didn't know who he was. I think he became really bad at supporting her, in part because he was so fragile in that moment that the idea that she would sort of go on and move and have the success and like, what does that mean for him? I think he didn't know what to do with it.
I think that's right. And let me just jump in with some other like relevant research here, because I agree with you. This is capturing something real at this portion of the movie, even though it all happens very, very quickly, because they seem to have this history of understanding each other and supporting each other in like the mutual pursuit of a very similar goal. But all of a sudden it collapses. And look, that's reflecting this very real thing that it's critical that romantic partners feel like, hey, we've got each other's backs, and that support is attentive, that you're paying attention to me. And that's why it's so key when Quincy like knows her stats, and why it's so devastating at the party when now she has earned a starting spot on the roster, and his reaction to that is, where's the keg? And it's just like these cascading failures of what we call in attachment theory the secure base, right? You're not actually celebrating me and supporting me in the way that I would expect. There are many cool studies that look at this, but one that I think is exceptionally fascinating actually experimentally manipulates whether or not people's romantic partners are providing attentive support or not.
It's cool.
Yeah, this is a tricky thing to manipulate, but the way they do it is they put people in a virtual environment where you, the participant, you got to like walk along this shaky cliff, and your partner is sort of there off in the distance, and you think your partner is, actually being controlled by your partner, but in reality, it's a program that's either, cheering you on or like kind of looking the other way. Yeah. And people get so sad if they think their partner isn't cheering them on.
Right.
And they've got like quotes from these participants and they're like, oh, I looked up and he wasn't doing anything. He was just standing there and I was disappointed. And, it's just like, but like kind of sad about the whole thing. And that's what people want. And this is where it falls apart for the two of them, is that inability to provide that attentive support.
My experience of the film really dovetails with yours, which is he was really solid at being good at this secure base support.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he completely faltered. And I think it's because of what we were talking about earlier. He fell into free fall.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what to do anymore. He didn't know who he was anymore. And her success was intimidating to him. And although that example, that problem of falling into free fall really is only Quincy's problem, the broader issue of us getting Michelangelo wrong is significant in the movie. There's a couple other key examples. I mean, one of them is when Quincy wants to step away from basketball. At this time, he's engaged to the Tyra Banks character, and he knows she really adores me because I'm an NBA player, and if I step away, this is going to be a problem. But my favorite of all of the examples is actually not the romantic one, but the dynamic between Monica and her mom.
Yeah.
Both good people, both deeply love one another, but they just don't understand each other.
They
Monica's
really don't.
mom really wants her daughter to be the belle of the ball. Yeah. And there is a moment when she basically is the belle of the ball, and she's dressed in a cute, kind of sexy dress, and the mom breaks out the family pearls and puts them on Monica and says, "You're beautiful," and Monica likes that she said she's beautiful, and they have this great moment. But the rest of the time, when Monica wants to be a badass basketball player, her mom just doesn't get it. And so she is supporting a nice thing about Monica, that Monica's attractive, that she looked beautiful and feminine that night at the dance, but she's trying to bring out a part of Monica that isn't the version of Monica that Monica herself wants to have brought out.
Yeah, and I think, too, like the contrast between the Monica and her mom relationship and then the Monica and Quincy relationship at that same moment in time, right? Basically on that same day, where it's like, I think he appreciates how she looks. He's obviously attracted to her. But more than anything else, he appreciates the 4 offensive rebounds. I mean,
yes.
that's what that's really exactly draws him to her, and that's pretty cool. So what else do you have here in this category?
One thing that was vivid to me was Quincy's response to that big curfew fight. We talked a little bit already about Monica's response, but this was like a relationship ender for Quincy.
I had to watch these scenes a few times. I mean, what was cool about this movie is like I kept rewatching pieces of it, and I get sucked right back in. It is very rewatchable. I mean, I think it's just
it is.
It's just well written, but I had to watch. Whoa, what happened?
Yeah, what exactly she did wrong?
Yeah.
So then I had a similar reaction. I just don't think it was that bad. I'm sympathetic with him in the sense of he had just had this traumatic experience. He was sharing it with the most important person in his life, and she had not only the priority for him, but an additional priority too.
Right.
And that's why she wanted them to go back to the dorm. But he won't let it go. Yeah. It comes up repeatedly. He eventually throws it back in her face. She's trying to talk, and he says, "No, I have curfew," which of course he didn't. He's just saying it. And then there's the climactic part of this fight where he goes out with another girl, and she confronts him about that. And he says,
"Can we talk?"
Talk to your new girlfriend.
Look, I took the hoe to Burger King.
Cheap date.
You shared time for me.
So you messed around to prove a point?
What'd I just say? No, you got your head so far up your ass, it took a cheap date for you to notice me.
What cute man, did I forget to kiss your ass like everybody else?
You forgot to be there.
That night you wanted to talk about your dad. I had curfew. What was I supposed to do?
Stay.
If I stayed, I wouldn't be starting.
Or at least you got your priorities straight.
I never asked you to choose.
You never have to.
I'm a ball player. If anybody knows what that means, it should be you.
So, I believe that his grudge holding is out of line with the amount of the transgression. I think she's made a real effort to try to make it up to him. Even at the time, she was trying to accommodate him and her other priority at the same time, and he just won't get over it. And there's interesting research on like who is it who tends to hold grudges, who perceives grievance in things that maybe wouldn't make everybody perceive grievance. And some of this is research I did way back when with Julie Exline and others. And we looked at narcissistic entitlement, right? So we assessed entitlement with items like, I will never be satisfied until I get all that I deserve. And then we had people recall. So they indicated the extent to which they agreed with those items. And we had them recall a time that somebody transgressed against them and how much it cost them to forgive. And yes, people who are higher in narcissistic entitlement recall that there's big costs to forgiving. And one thing that's neat about that work is we ran a follow-up study where we controlled what the transgressions were. So in that first study, people were recalling something that happened to them in the past. We didn't know exactly what that was. But in the follow-up study, we had exact standardized scenarios, like a student plagiarized from your paper or somebody revealed a personal secret about you to peers sort of gossiping about you. And now we know exactly how severe the transgressions are because we made them up. And we can look again at the degree to which your narcissistic entitlement, those sorts of items like I described earlier, are linked to how severe the transgression is. And if you are more entitled, you view those transgressions as more offensive and you insist on greater repayment before you can possibly forgive. And I do think this is a little bit of what's happening with Quincy. He has been brought up to be the golden child. He's outstanding at basketball. There's 10,000 people cheering him on when he does his hobby. His dad is an NBA star. And he feels like the world should sort of be given to him. And I think we see that in his response to what seems to me to be at most a modest transgression from Monica.
That insight, it does unlock that sequence a little bit for me because it is a little surprising that he loses it to this extent. And
it basically ended the relationship.
Right, exactly. And she seems like she's being extremely reasonable. Now, again, he's asking her to make a sacrifice for him in that moment. I think what he doesn't, and guess what? Relationship partners have to make sacrifices for each other. But I think what strikes us as odd, as the audience, is like, that's like a kind of a big sacrifice. Like, she might not get to suit up tomorrow. But can't she just go talk on the phone? And I think you're right. The narcissism maybe explains why he thought this was such an unforgivable transgression, even though to the rest of us it looks like, well, it's not that big a deal to talk on the phone instead.
He felt entitled to better treatment.
I get that. Let's talk about some of the differences between these two and the way that they need to navigate their social worlds. And I think there's some real wisdom here that appears. This is earlier in the movie when they are still in high school, but I just want to play this sequence because it's pretty great.
Don't tempt me, I'm warning you.
I'm warning you. If you don't stall that bad attitude, no one's gonna recruit you.
Please. You jump in some guy's face, you talk smack, and you get a pat on your ass. But because I'm a female, I get told to calm down and act like a lady. I'm a ball player, okay?
With a jacked up attitude.
Didn't know you cared so much.
I really don't.
Good.
So, the sequence is great. The like flirting that's like interspersed in there is absolutely fantastic. No notes. But as a psychologist also, I think this is great for illustrating how assertive behaviors, dominant behaviors, a jacked up attitude, as it were, it has different consequences for men than it does for women. This research literature is absolutely gigantic. And much of the time it's happening in workplace context. Like that's often where folks are looking at these sorts of things, right? It's like, women in leadership. So if a woman behaves in an assertive way as a leader, is she treated differently than if it was a man? Right, sure. Okay, short answer is
huge literature.
Yes, she is treated differently. And that the main way that this comes out is that if the behaviors are explicitly dominant, which obviously matches this movie, we're talking about behaviors on the court and things like that. Well, those sorts of behaviors, what they mainly do is they get you rated as less likable if you're a woman than if you're a man. And so, again, here's like one of these examples to give you a flavor of how these studies are often done. Because, again, it's like people, they're kind of like interviewing for a job or something along those lines. And so here's the phrase that the candidate might say. They're talking about how they were an editor of the school paper, and, if somebody else didn't come through with a story, I was responsible for it. And, I always pulled it off so well that sometimes I even surprised myself. My supervisors noticed also, and were quite complimentary. Okay. So that's like a reasonable, assertive, self-promoting thing to say.
Yes,
and when a woman says those words as opposed to a man, she is liked much less. So, I think they are
double bind, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. The double bind. So, they are onto something with those observations. And it was tougher for her throughout this movie to balance being feminine and being a basketball player in a way that, the red carpet was just kind of rolled out for him.
You're right. He did not have to struggle at all to reconcile being a great basketball player with being a man.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Do you have anything else in this category?
Just a quick one. I just want to give a shout out here to Gina Prince-Bythewood in the way that she brings playfulness and teasing into the Quincy-Monica relationship. So some of it's just straight up playfulness, like the strip basketball scene.
It's so good.
Right? It's like he sets up his indoor basketball hoop like Nerf or something, and it's like, well, each time I score, you got to take off a piece of clothing. That's just adorable. But I really like the teasing thing, and I think the reason why this was meaningful to me is that I don't think the public discourse about teasing is particularly sharp. In particular, I don't think we've done a good job at distinguishing teasing from bullying. Teasing done right is like an outstanding thing to do for closeness and intimacy, including in romantic relationships.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I just want to bring up a couple examples that I think that they're great. So one of the cases is when they're in college and she's helping to ice his injured ankle. And he says, well, who cares if you're never known as the first girl in the NBA? You'll get more play behind Quincy McCall's woman anyway. And so she takes the ice and she shoves it down the front of his pants.
I think she pours it down there. She opens the bag and pours it all in.
Not like
That's really funny.
And he says, damn it, girl. And she says, that's what you get. But it's so loving and playful, and it makes them feel closer to each other and is a source of mutual laughter together. And I think this movie gets that just exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny that there are these moments in this movie where I'm so into their relationship, and then then there's that whole long stretch where I'm like, what is happening? So I think that transitions nicely into the misconceptions about relationships in this movie. I think we both actually struggled a little bit in this section.
I did. Yeah.
But, one thing worth pointing out is that, Gina Prince-Bythewood called this Black When Harry Met Sally. And, they do both kind of end on the happy ending as their, marriage and life together, parenting are really taking off. So we don't really get to see what happens with them ultimately. Now, we do, unlike When Harry Met Sally, we do see them genuinely dating for about a year. And as we've discussed, many parts of that relationship look quite good. But actually, given that many parts of that relationship look quite good, it is a little shocking how quickly the relationship falls apart. It feels like all of a sudden the relationship feels oddly casual in the way that he breaks it off. I mean, that whole fight sequence is kind of a day or two. And that's a little surprising given what we had seen about those two up until that point.
It's interesting listening to you. It's sort of like updating my thinking a little bit about Quincy and about the movie. So Look, I made a case earlier that what was really happening there was that the bottom fell out for him. That his dad did this super betrayal and the floor shattered and he was in free fall. And so then he couldn't really handle things in a grown-up way. But this gets to something that I had some concerns about in terms of misconceptions, which is once Monica comes back, almost right away, he decides to leave his fiancée, the Tyra Banks character, I guess right away and without a whole lot of consternation. Now, in fairness to the filmmakers, it wasn't Tyra Banks' story. It was these other people's stories. So we don't see what those fights and conversations look like. But now
this is one of those classic, please don't change the movie, but I feel contractually obligated to note that.
Yes, but it is changing me a little bit in terms of thinking about potential misconceptions, because the movie clearly implies something like a happily ever after.
Yeah.
And he now, at least for the second time, has very, very abruptly left what appears to be a very good relationship. And I don't know whether it's that plausible anymore that they're going to have their happily ever after, given that this is now a pattern of rather abrupt departures.
Departures. I mean, this is a thing in a lot of movies, where relationships... I mean, look, I get it. If it's a comedy, even if it's supposed to be a movie that makes you feel good, we don't want to spend a lot of time watching the agonizing breakup. But, usually the process of breaking up, I mean, I'm thinking of, some of the progression bias work by Sam Joel and others, which point out, man, breaking up is usually a long, drawn-out process.
Arduous.
With fits and starts and... I'm going to get back together. I'm going to break up again. It's like these things take a while for people to extract themselves from each other's lives. We got great attraction in here and some really cool ongoing relationship material. But the breakups are happening pretty quick.
Yeah, I think that's right. Now, in fairness, this is not a 4-season television show. This is a regular length movie. And we've seen outstanding depictions of a breakup.
That
we've discussed on the show. I mean, Marriage Story, for example, is just outstanding.
But the whole movie.
It was the whole movie.
Is that, So fair enough. The only other thing I've got here has to do with Quincy's father's infidelity. Now, there's something interesting that the movie does here, which is that it essentially posits that Quincy's father was more likely to cheat for 2 reasons. And the reasons are really blended together here in his character. The 2 reasons are that he is very desirable. He's a famous basketball player. He's got a lot of money. He's a good-looking guy, okay? And also that he has many opportunities, more opportunities than most people would have to commit infidelity, because essentially there are these women that are throwing themselves at him. Okay.
Right.
So I just wanted to note that, we can look in the infidelity literature at those 2 factors separately, because they don't have to go together. You can be a very desirable person and have a lot or very few opportunities, right? So these things are separable in principle, even though they're combined in this movie. And it turns out that one of them does predict infidelity and the other one doesn't. And the one that does predict infidelity is the opportunity component.
Yeah.
That when people are surrounded by alternative romantic partners, there's even work showing that, if you work in a place where there's, people of your preferred gender around, that might be slightly, but still significantly more likely to lead to infidelity. But the attractiveness component, not really. More appealing people, just on average, they're no more or less likely to commit infidelity. So in the real data, we can separate these 2 things, and it's the opportunity more than it is I'm just a desirable person. What could I do?
I find all of that fascinating. I also find it somewhat surprising, because when I think of what temptation looks like, sure, it's that people are around, that there's somebody in the next cubicle. But temptation should be much, much higher if that person in the next cubicle is also flirting with you.
I hear what you're saying. I think what's easy to miss here is that in many contexts, the signs that other people are into you are subtle. Like, that's why for the rest of us, like the NBA parallel, like this isn't great. Okay?
Interesting.
So the way this actually happens is there are signs and you can ignore them. And people often have blinders on when they're in a close relationship that makes them happy. There's many ways that we can ignore the signs. But again, the main thing here is sort of the baseline presence of possible opportunities rather than the signs being thrown at you. So I think I find it a little bit less counterintuitive than you do.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, but let's transition to, are we okay with this? So yeah, talk to me. What do you have here?
I have this divided into the good, the bad, and the questionable.
Okay.
So let me just start with the good. This movie, maybe better than any we've watched, illustrates this idea that, we talk about in academia, right? This idea of structural inequality.
Yes.
And the reason why it's so perfect.
It's so clear. It's so clear as an illustration.
It's so clear. And you wouldn't even need some of the stuff she's getting, like, why aren't you more feminine? Sure, that's more straightforward. But there just isn't a WNBA.
Yeah.
She can't play professionally, and make money in America. She has to go abroad to make far less than he does, but at least something. So he has this pathway available to him because he's a male basketball player rather than a female basketball player. And that is just such a vivid illustration of structural inequality.
And my understanding is that the WNBA didn't exist during the first drafts, I think, that she had. And so as the WNBA came into existence, she added that in and was able to kind of create this you can have it all sort of ending, which I gotta admit I rather enjoyed.
I loved it. Yeah.
And look, we just covered A Star Is Born, and that movie has many good merits too, but it is not a yes, she can have it all story.
Not much happily ever after at the end of that one.
It's a you must choose. You must choose between having the professional career you want and having the man you want. And in this movie, she doesn't have to choose.
Monica gets
anyway,
both.
It's an incredible 1-2 punch. I can't believe we covered these movies back to back.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other thing that's fascinating is that we've got some grand romantic gestures in this movie, especially at the end of this movie. Monica is the one who is essentially it's Monica who's putting herself out there.
She absolutely
is.
And
saying, I will play you one-on-one to get you to break up with Tyra Banks. So, that's also kind of cool to see a grand romantic gesture like that one.
Okay, turning now to the bad. There's something in here I didn't really love, is that this is a pretty slut-shaming movie.
Yeah.
Monica in particular, right? So there's that scene where there's a girl who wants Quincy to take her to the dance, doesn't know Monica is into Quincy, so gives Monica the letter that she's supposed to read. And the letter is definitely like, hey, take me to the dance. I'll leave you satisfied. And Monica's like, what a hoe. She's a hoe because she's sending her coochie through the mail. I mean, honestly, I laughed. And I'm laughing now because it's funny. It's well written. But let's be honest. This is a pretty slut-shaming characterization of this woman who is attracted to Quincy and wants to get it on with him.
Right. Exactly. Like totally normal thing. And I'm with you there. Okay. So what about the questionable?
Right. So I don't even know how to think about this one. So Quincy's mom hires a private detective to follow Quincy's dad, Zeke, follow him around. And in fact, she does get these photos of him getting it on with another woman. He has lied to Quincy. He has lied to his wife. I don't know how to think about this. So clearly she was correct in her suspicion. But of course, when you hire the private detective, you don't have all the information you need. And so you're making a decision under uncertainty to hire a private detective to follow your spouse around. I don't know what to say. I don't feel judgmental of her. I also feel like, boy, the relationship feels pretty broken before that. And maybe you don't need to do it. But I don't know. Do you have a reaction to whether that's okay?
It's tough. Like the way, because this is often... I mean, I'm sure this is a real thing. I'm also sure it's a real thing we don't study.
Yeah, you're right about that.
When is the decision to hire a private investigator and what predicts it? Like, that has never been written in an academic journal. Watch, people are going to send us papers. Anyway, I'm pretty sure there's not much out there on when people decide to hire a PI. But my sense is that this trope in movies is kind of unfortunate because, we, the audience, either already know that the PI is needed or we shortly thereafter learn that the PI was needed.
Yep.
So you don't get the other cells in the design, as we might say. We don't see, well, what if you hired the private detective, but it was totally not needed at all, and you really needed to talk things out, and then by hiring the private detective, well, now that shows a lack of trust in your relationship, and you've burned it, and you didn't have to,
It's just a tough
never
call.
see that.
I mean, anybody seeking to hire a private detective for a reason like this or snooping in your partner's emails.
That's right.
You're making a decision under uncertainty, and it's a pretty fraught decision.
Yeah, right. And people will often, when relationships are going wrong, in the same way, are we going to, will they or won't they? There's a lot of uncertainty and people are hunting for clues. Well, there's a lot of uncertainty often as relationships break up and people are hunting for clues.
Right.
Because they want explanations for why things are going awry. And it's, I think, something that we need to be able to understand in more detail. It's very I find it very hard to fault people for that. The uncertainty in those moments can be totally debilitating.
Yeah.
Should people talk about these things calmly with their partner? Of course they should. But
yes, but he was lying to her.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it doesn't, real life is not always so conducive to doing the calm, talk it out strategy. Let's talk about quotes. I think I've brought up this scene a few times already, but I just kind of want to play the whole thing. So let's play the whole thing here.
A little after you left, I told Shawnee it was time to go. Drove her ass straight home. And after she told me I was the dumbest brother in the world, I took off.
I was sitting in Jason's ride with him. And he was kissing on me and feeling on me. And it was really bugging me because I couldn't remember how many offensive boards I had in the championship. And then I guess he got sort of tired of me accidentally kneeing him in the balls.
Four.
What?
Yeah, 4 offensive rebounds.
And that's beautiful in a number of ways because, again, it shows you're paying attention. But what is also so cool about this is that and this is the moment that they're going to get together for the first time, and it's revealed because they're both clearly indicating that they were with other people that they didn't want to be with.
Yeah.
And it was implicitly here, I would rather have been with you. And, A+ stuff.
I love it. One of the lines I loved is one of the shortest and most famous in the movie. It's double or nothing.
Yeah.
And again, just as a reminder to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
Late in the movie, they've played this game of one-on-one basketball. The prize is supposed to be his heart. This is her grand romantic gesture. She's trying to win his heart back. And he beats her. And there it is. He's going to get married.
I thought she was going to win. I did.
Yeah, I know.
She was gonna win.
Yeah, but the movie's too good
it's
for that.
It's the best one-on-one basketball game I've ever watched.
It was awesome.
So good.
And so he wins the game, and that means that she doesn't get his heart. He's going to marry Tyra Banks. She starts walking off. She's sad. That's what it is. And he says, double or nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the moment when you realize, he's going to do it. I'll acknowledge here that this double or nothing line is sort of a couplet to the earlier line, which is play for your heart, that I found a little cringe.
Right.
I think the kids these days use the word cringe, but we're going to play one-on-one for what? For your heart. But this one where it catches me off guard, I love it. And I love it in part because I don't think it's clear as an example of like communal versus exchange relationships. I didn't bring it up earlier because I think it's not as simple as that. But I do like the idea that it's like love is when the competition ends.
Yes.
Right? It's the moment when you say like, look, it's not about me beating you, you beating me. That's not the point. And I think they really get it in that moment. And, of course they're going to have happily ever after.
You know what's interesting? I don't know how well you remember this, but you and I are on a paper from several years ago where we talked about the competition versus cooperation metaphors in the science, in the way scientists think about relationships. And what we were pointing out is that the evolutionary literature really leans into competition.
Right.
And the close relationships literature really leans into cooperation.
Yeah.
And anyway, I mean, of course, I agree with the way you just put it, which is that, right, relationships begin when the competition ends. But there are genuine perspectives on relationships that are like, men and women, they've got different interests and different needs, and like everybody's trying to get the best possible deal. And I love the end of that scene for showing us how it can be useful to set those ideas aside.
Yeah, right. That's I think captured pretty well. They're both competitive people. They're competing with each other. They're doing it playfully. They're doing it seriously. But the big moment is when clearly who wins is beside the point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was also thinking too, double or nothing is what you say to your kid when you're going to keep playing until they win.
Or until they fall asleep.
Yeah, that too. That would have been a less good ending to this movie. Okay, so what do we wish we knew? Look, it's considered bad scientific form to point to famous people, like celebrities, and say, look at that celebrity relationship over there or that famous person. Mm-hmm. I bet that reveals some truth about human nature.
Yeah.
And dear listener, you're probably thinking like, scientists would never do that. That sounds stupid. But I assure you that I saw reviews of a scientific paper doing exactly that yesterday.
Interesting.
But yeah, some point about Scarlett Johansson and something. But anyway, we all know we're not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And I wonder, are there some contexts with some exceptionally famous people, high earners, etc., where you would see some of these dynamics such that, as we're told early in the movie, these women are going to see you as dollar signs. Mm-hmm. Now, we are on record many times pointing out that qualities like earning potential, they have the same aphrodisiac effect for men and women. So we've talked about this a billion times. But is there like a group of people who are really like chasing dollar signs as it's explained to us? I mean, I don't know. Like, what does that look like? Are there specific like subgroups or subpopulations where you find things like this? You don't see it in the kind of science that we study, but when you hear that like NBA players have these women that are, like we've talked about, throwing themselves at them and are, interested in like, ooh, like this would be a way to have a very comfortable life. I can't say exactly that we've studied that.
No, I don't think we have. And I think for many people, it would be a reasonable choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the more mundane examples, I wish that our field were in a better position to tell people whether they should date their best friend. Like lots of people have confronted an issue like this where you're really close with someone and there's some attraction, maybe there's even some mutual attraction, and you start to think, do I want to initiate something here? Okay, maybe we're both interested. We're talking about it. Should we go forward? This movie
I say go for it. Just go for it.
But the movie seems to suggest that it's dangerous because Monica and Quincy are really good buddies. And then they get together. They have this one sort of weird fight that I don't even totally understand. And when he says to her, he's breaking up with her, and he says, I want us still to be friends, it's clear that that's just a devastating blow all around.
Right.
And they aren't friends. They lose touch with each other and only come back 5 years later to rekindle the thing. Is that the normative pattern? What do people do in this situation? How should they handle a situation like this? I don't think we're in the position I wish we were in to advise people on best practice.
Yeah, it's a good point. And what I wish we could say is, okay, you've been friends with this person. Here are the apps that I would develop if I had the means to do so. Okay, you've been friends for this long, and maybe other things like, do you live near each other, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And if you form a relationship, here's the likelihood that, you're going to make it all the way to the altar. And here's the likelihood that you're going to break up and that you'll be friends afterwards, and the likelihood that you're going to break up and you're not going to be friends with afterwards. I want to know those 3 buckets.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So it's because we can't, nothing's going to be determinative. We are a probabilistic science, right? Everything is a percentage here and a percentage there, and you never know exactly what's going to happen. But at least we could give people, hey, 3 buckets. Happily ever after, happily temporarily, and then back to being friends. Okay.
Sure.
Or no, it's all done. You've lost the whole thing. And yeah, I wish we could say more.
I want relationship science to be in a position to build that out.
I think you said science.
Science.
But I'm going to leave it in because that's funny. On this podcast, we rate movies from 1 to 5 stars. Eli, why don't you go first? How many stars do you give Love and Basketball?
4. This is a 4-star movie for me. I do think there's a few false notes, occasionally strained dialogue, but both of the main characters are fleshed out in interesting ways. Both of them grow and change in plausible ways. And starting around a third of the way through the movie, we just get one banger scene after
It really is. I
good.
found that too, and I also give this movie 4 stars. I mean, there's like no fluff in here at all.
No,
I mean,
right.
It's very, very lean. And yeah, as I like jump around, I'm like, oh, this scene. Oh, I want to watch this scene again. It's really terrifically done in that sense. On this podcast, we also rate movies on Rust Bolts. Now, the Rust Bolt is named after Eli's advisor, the late, great Carol Rust Bolt, pioneer of close relationships research, with 5 stars, indicating a near-perfect depiction of the nature of close relationships. I'm at 4 Rust Bolts here. I thought this movie had a lot of messages here that are pretty well reflected by the science. There were just a few things that I noted, the really capricious breakups and a couple other notes that weren't totally spot on, but overall pretty well done. 4 Rust Bolts from me. What about you?
You almost bumped me when you were talking about the capriciousness stuff that made me worry, like, how likely is it that Quincy's going to be able to commit to something long-term? But still, this is a 5 Rust Bolt movie for me.
Yeah, there it is.
It gets almost nothing wrong. I spent a long time stressed about the fact that it got almost nothing wrong, and it gets a whole lot
I was on the
right.
edge. I really was.
Oh, interesting. I mean, for me, it like underscores the challenges and the opportunities of building a relationship in the self-expressive era, and how our goals become our identities, and why that's kind of complicated in relationships. It shows why it's hard to sustain a long-term relationship, why we feel highly entitled. It shows the importance of playfulness and teasing. I just think it was a great demonstration of how these things really work.
Yeah, well, this has been the Love Factually podcast. I'm Paul Eastwick. I have been here with Eli Finkel, and now in 2 weeks, we will be covering a movie that has a winged protagonist. That's right. That's right. One of our protagonists has wings in this upcoming film.
I think one of the great songs in that movie is Garbage.
I totally forgot about that. And Eli, I look forward to doing this with you next time.
I look forward to it as well. The Love Factually podcast is produced and edited by Paul Eastwick and Eli Finkel, featuring music from Andrew Fraker and Sons. If you'd like to support the show, don't forget to rate and subscribe in your podcast app. And please reach out to us at lovefactuallypod@gmail.com. To learn more about the research we discuss in this episode, find the notes on our Substack. That's lovefactually.substack.com.